Welcome to this week's Money Metals podcast, helping gold and silver investors during these turbulent times. Now, this week's market wrap with commentary and analysis from Money Metals Exchange, the company named Best Overall Precious Metals Dealer by Investopedia.
Welcome to this week's Market Wrap podcast. I'm Money Metals CEO Stefan Gleason. First, I hope everyone is having a great holiday weekend with their family and friends. Coming up in a moment on this week's podcast, we have a special interview with Mark O'Byrne, the founder of Terra Coins in Ireland. Not only is Mark creator of the stunningly beautiful Tree of Life gold and silver coins available at moneymetals.com, but he is also a bona fide Emerald Isle historian and longtime sound money proponent. So be sure to stick around for our fascinating discussion with Ireland's own Mark O'Byrne. But first, here's a quick recap on this week's market action. The U.S. stock market continues to rise following the presidential election earlier this month. Gold, meanwhile, has mostly recovered from its post-election correction, but it's only been trading sideways in recent days. The yellow metal looks to end the week and the month around $26.70 per ounce. Meanwhile, the recent price action in silver has been less positive than gold, but silver's November decline was halted by the key $30 level, and the poor man's gold is now trading a little below $31 here on Friday afternoon as we head into the monthly close. With today being Black Friday, I want to mention that Money Metals has slashed premiums dramatically on some really popular items, especially our 10-ounce silver bars and 1-ounce silver rounds. So be sure to go to moneymetals.com to take advantage of these deals, including our free bonus offer on all orders containing over $500 of silver. And for those looking for the perfect gift for a loved one, Money Metals has created a special gift shop at moneymetals.com. Check it out to find all kinds of great gift ideas. And now, without further delay, let's get right to this week's exclusive interview.
Greetings, I'm Mike Maharrey, a reporter and analyst here at Money Metals, and I'm here today with Mark O'Byrne. Mark is the founder of Terra Coins, a company that produces Irish and Celtic gold and silver bullion coins and rounds. We sell some of those here at Money Metals. They're absolutely gorgeous. And he was also the founder of Ireland's largest gold and silver broker. He's retired from that job. And really happy to have you on the show today, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Great to be on with you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I really appreciate it. I mentioned the gold and silver coins that your company makes, and I've got some of the silver rounds with the Tree of Life on them, and they're just stunningly beautiful coins. Especially if you like Irish culture and Irish heritage as I do, it's a must-have for collectors.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you got involved in became interested in that side of the business. You started out as a broker. What kind of inspired you to get into producing coins?
It's a good question. I suppose the same reason I got into gold in the first place. I studied history. That was my degree in university. And I was always interested in how the world works, and I was using history to try and understand how the world works, because it never really made sense to me as a kid, all these battles and constant killing, and why are we doing that, and this, why do we never learn from history, and I didn't understand these even as a teenager. Then in university, I began to understand that a bit. I started doing sort of extra reading, sometimes off the curriculum, shall we speak, and getting interest in books and realizing that it's frequently about the money. So it's like most things in life, you have to follow the money. What's the motivation? What's the intent? Everything's about the intent. And, there's been very powerful kings and queens and emperors and empresses throughout history. So it's important to find out what was their motivation. And frequently their motivation was actually to control other nations. That's the nature of empires, to expand. And frequently it was to actually control gold or to plunder gold from other nations, because it has been money since the first coins were minted created in about 650 in Lydia, in modern day Turkey, Anatolia. But I think our ancestors for thousands of years prior to that were using little tokens of gold. They may not have had the technology, but they knew it had value. It's shiny, it's beautiful. So anyway, I became aware of that at quite a young age, and I was sort of reading about it and just fascinated by it. But I got sucked into my dad's business for a period of time, which is an employment agency. But then I started buying gold in a private capacity in the early 2000s, around the millennium actually, because there's a lot of fear mongering, if you remember, about the Y2K.
Yes.
Yeah, and I suspect it was fear mongering, but I said, well, no bad thing having a bit of insurance anyway, you know. So I was actually buying from dealers in Denver, of all places, and in New York, because there was no dealers in Ireland at the time. And I found that fascinating that, you know, gold has been with us throughout history, and I knew it was money, you know. So why isn't there Irish companies selling gold? Why aren't some of the Irish banks selling gold? Why aren't there stockbrokers that have a division selling gold? And when I spoke to people, they all laughed at me, and they all said to me, why would you do that? That's a barbaric relic from the past, you know. And that barbaric relic term was used all the time. They literally laughed at me, you know. And so I had to buy outside of Ireland. And I sort of started realizing, well, hang on a second, there's an opportunity here, you know. And I also realized there was a thing called the EU Gold Directive. So Ireland became part of the EU, and we actually became part of the monetary union as well. So we have the euro. And they issued this thing called the EU Gold Directive, which basically harmonized the treatment of gold throughout the European Union. It was actually quite good for gold. They were encouraging the citizens to invest in gold and own gold, which was quite unusual, because they knew it had a benefit, you know. It makes sense. If you are a good government, you want your citizens to own gold because it will protect them, you know. So they harmonized the treatment of gold, and they reduced gold to 0% tax throughout the European Union. So that wasn't publicized in the Irish media, the British media. None of the media publicized this. But I found it on the internet, and I said, wow, that's interesting. There's an opportunity here. So, and because what had happened is, culturally and traditionally, we never bought gold in Ireland since we got independence in 1922, because there was VAT. So why would you buy gold? You would automatically buy the field. So the green field became our gold in effect, you know, because we wanted to get that land back from the bad, evil Brits who took it from us, you know. So property, in particular real estate and land, became our default tangible asset of choice. And we frowned at gold. It was almost seen as the gold standard. That was the English money, you know, so we didn't want that. So it's a very interesting thing. So anyway, that's why I set up the business. I became aware of September 11th happened. And I was quite aware of the risks that are in the world. That the stock markets fell very sharply around that tech bubble around 2000 as well. And I looked at the charts as well, and just you could see gold had been in a bear market for 20 years, you know. So I was looking at it fundamentally and technically, and I could see it was an absolute no-brainer from every perspective in those early 2000s. And yet when I spoke to people, they laughed at me, including people who would be very, you know, considered experts and very, you know, well-read and well-educated regarding the finance. But they literally laughed at it, you know, and it proved to me, and I realized that they had literally been programmed. They had been, you know, the education system today its gold has been written out of it, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard for people to understand that you really have to do a bit of reading and a bit of research. And it's only when you do that and you understand the context, the historical context, it is decisive, you know. So, and when you do that, then you have that underpinning, which allows you to understand and take a long-term view, which is very important with both gold and silver.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the fact that the EU dropped some of those tax barriers on gold and silver. I wish they would figure that out here in the United States, because it's very much treated as a commodity, and I really think almost intentionally dissuaded from being thought of as money here. And it's kind of surprising to me that the EU would be a little bit more open to that.
Well, that was the only good thing they did. They haven't been particularly, they haven't been particularly positive goal besides that. But that was, and it was quietly brought into the legislation, so people didn't even know about it. It's quite interesting, you know. But they did state the intent was to, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was basically to, I'm not sure if they used the word encourage, but they were suggesting that it's a good thing for people to own gold, you know. But there was no great follow through on that per se. And I mean, there's a lot of tax in the EU on silver in every single country, which very much deters people from investing in silver. The VAT in Ireland alone is 23%.
Oh, wow.
You're down a quarter. Yeah, you're down a quarter before you begin, which is terrible. It means that people who are buying silver, they tend to buy it and they put it into Switzerland or they put it into some offshore location where they don't have to pay the VAT.
Right.
And I think they might put it into Idaho soon. If they find out about the Gleason brothers' vaults in Idaho, they might be storing up there fairly soon.
Yeah, largest vault, bigger than Fort Knox, which it's pretty cool.
It's very cool, very impressive. Yeah.
So I mentioned that I've got some of the silver Tree of Life rounds. Can you kind of just explain some of the symbolism that's on there? Like what's the significance of the Tree of Life? And then on the flip side, you've got the harp and a couple other symbols. What are the significance of those?
Yeah, so basically, I looked at the history of coinage. It's fascinated me. I also studied Greek and Roman civilization. So it's funny. Only the other day, I was reading about Croesus again, and you know the expression "rich as Croesus." And it's very interesting. He was a king around, I think, about 400 BC in Greece. And he became rich because he engaged in many, many battles with the neighboring states all around Greece and Turkey and that part of the world, you know, and basically, you know, plunder. They took the gold. You know, he became known as rich as Croesus. So, but they always had. Well, they tend to put the face of the king in the later years, but in the early years they actually had images of animals. Mm-hmm. And one of the earliest coins they had was actually fascinating. It was it's like a bull on one side, because most societies worship the cow because it provided so much to us in terms of dairy, meat, and the hide, in terms of clothing and everything, you know. So the cows are very special, and so they had a cow on one side and a tiger on the other, you know. So anyway, when I looked at, I really wanted to capture the essence of Ireland in a coin, and so I had to go and really find out what are the sacred symbols of Ireland, you know, because I suppose, as we know, a picture paints 1,000 words.
Right.
I suppose the sacred there's consciousness almost in it, you know. There's you know, symbols are very, very important. So, and that's why to this day, you know, central banks have their insignia on it. We have fiat legal tender coins, and we have crown insignia on some of the coins, you know. So the most sacred symbol in Ireland, well, there's a few of them, but the three that we picked and we thought were the most that would resonate most with people were the harp. So the harp is basically, we're the only nation in the world that has a musical instrument as our national emblem. Yeah. It's actually on our passports, it's on our driving licenses, it's on all the government documentation, you know. Then Guinness popularized it. It's a symbol of Guinness, the famous black beer that people in Ireland around the world drink. And so it's a very, very ancient symbol that's represented Ireland for hundreds of years, and basically it's the symbol of sound, and we're a very musical nation. We love music, we love singing. So it's a very sort of, and it goes back to the Druids in ancient times. Uh-huh. They say that they actually had harps that were made from oak, and then they had gold and silver strings. Oh, wow. You can imagine the sound that would have come off these ancient harps, you know, and they use them for healing, for celebration, mm-hmm. and many the same ways we use music today, you know, to relax ourselves and to enjoy ourselves, you know. Right. So it's a beautiful, beautiful symbol, and people really resonate with it, you know. So the tri-spiral is, we have what's believed to be one of the oldest solar chambers in the world. It's a place called, in English, it's known as Newgrange, and in Irish, it's known as She na Brew. And She basically means the spirits, the spiritual beings, the fairies are the elemental beings, and then the brew is either the womb or the portal. So there's this basically solar chamber. I studied a bit of archaeology actually in first year, and we used to be told that these are all tombs. But now we're realizing that a lot of them are actually solar chambers, and they're actually wombs. They're wombs that would receive the energy of the sun. So this one Newgrange, it's interesting. We're coming up to the winter solstice now, and on the winter solstice, our ancestors were much wiser than we give them credit for. You know, we had periods of enlightenment, and then we had periods of dark ages. You know, right. And there was a period of enlightenment in Ireland many thousands of years ago, and they don't know this solar chamber Newgrange. It's basically older than the oldest pyramid. So they say it's at least 2,500 BC. I better get this right. Let me see it here. Yeah, 3,200 BC. So yeah, 5,200 years minimum is how old it is, which means it's older than the oldest pyramid. It's older than Stonehenge in the UK, you know. and they built it. They were master stonemasons, stone workers, and they built this. It's a huge circular solar chamber, and many of us will be going there now. They'll be going there now on December 20th, December 21st. That's the shortest day of the year. Basically, the sun would come up on that day, and it would penetrate the entry to the chamber, and then it would go all the way back to the very back of the chamber. And at the very back of the chamber, they had this ancient stone that they had carved in. It shows you there. They had carved in this tri-spiral that's on the coin, and it's called a tri-spiral or a triscala. And they don't know. They think it possibly means past, present, future, or the masculine, the feminine, and the child. So it's this cycle of life, fertility. It could actually be birth, life, and death, or birth, life, and rebirth. So nobody knows. But
Right.
they were much more wise than we give them credit for. And then we also have on that side of the coin we have Éire, which is actually the Irish name for Ireland.
Right.
It's Ifada, I-R-E is the Irish name for Ireland. And that would have been on all the old Irish coins from 1922 up until we had the euro. We had that written on our coin. So that's the old Irish word for Ireland. And it actually comes from a sovereignty goddess, the goddess of the land called Eru, and that's where that comes from. And then we have the main symbol is actually, it's sort of a Celtic symbol, but it's also a universal symbol. So yeah, it's interesting, and thank you for saying that, Mike. You see it as gorgeous because it's interesting. People from all over the world, different walks of life, men and women, like German women, English women, even if they have no connection to Ireland whatsoever, they see the coin, they go, "Wow, that's really, really beautiful." Sometimes they're quite moved by it. But the Tree of Life it's basically in so many spiritual and cultural traditions there was a sacred tree, and it's called the Tree of Life, and it's in the Christian tradition, it's in the Judaic tradition, it's in the Islamic tradition, and it's in most sort of, ancient civilizations, whether it be the Mayans, the Buddha. He was enlightened under a peach tree,
Right.
So the tree was sort of a symbol of the connection of heaven to earth, that's what the symbol. It symbolized that, but also symbolized abundance. Obviously, and it's a sort of a symbol of nature. We get food from trees, whether it be fruits and apples. We get shelter from trees. We get in the winter. We would survive the winter because we would have wood from trees.
Right.
We could cook food. So it's so important to our ancestors. So we're sort of celebrating nature. There's a lot of faux environmentalism, a lot of fake environmentalism today, but the environment is important, and we have to get that balance right, and we do have to have reverence for nature because it does provide everything, and there's an intrinsic value in nature in the same way there's an intrinsic value in a tree. There's an intrinsic value in gold and silver, and that's why they have value, because they come from nature.
Yeah.
And real value comes from nature, and then man can enhance that value. So yeah, so they're the symbols there, and we did put on. The shamrock is also a sacred symbol of Ireland, so we did put two beautiful little shamrocks at the base of the tree, and we've beautiful sacred geometry as well. There's a lovely balance, as above, so below. So there's a lovely balance in the coin between the branches and the leaves, and the apples up above, and then the roots down below.
Yeah.
And the roots become the fruits, as I think it was Tony Robbins said that. I'm not sure who said that. But a wise man once said, "The roots become the fruits." So we have the shamrock as well, and it's beautiful. It is beautiful, and I actually worked with graphic designers, Irish graphic designers, Irish artists, spiritual, cultural mentors to really capture. I really want to capture the essence of Ireland, the spirit of Ireland in the coin, and I think many people have told us that we have co-created that. So there was a team of people who helped me with this, and I'm very, very happy with the finished product. I don't like using the word product, but it is a beautiful coin, as you said, or medal. It's a non-legal tender coin. Yeah.
It really is, and what, legal tender or not, it's still fundamentally money, because gold and silver are fundamentally money, and it's not only. You could look at it as kind of from a pragmatic standpoint, but it's really a work of art. And like I said, I think people would enjoy having it in their collection, not just for the intrinsic value of the gold and silver, but because of the beauty you've created. So good job on that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that was the intention, is have them almost like works of art, that people really cherish them, and they could be beautiful gifts as well. I always look at the Julian being like, I don't understand why people don't buy beautiful coins for their loved ones for Christmas, for birthdays, for anniversaries. It's beautiful. If a baby's born in 2024, why not get them a beautiful gold or silver coin? Yeah, and that's why I started with the small 1 ounce silver, and then I did the 0.1 ounce gold, because it's becoming unaffordable for people to buy a large 1 ounce, for many people, to buy the larger gold coins. So I want to make it accessible to people, and have these beautiful works of art that people can give to each other as gifts. But we also have a mass-produced silver coin as well, which is the 3/9 pure silver Tree of Life, and we're minting that with Regency Mint. So that's more a mass-produced bullion coin round, which is a much more lower cost for people who want to get. And it's a very high quality. It's not quite, they're BU, they're brilliant uncirculated. So there's a mirror finish on them. So they're absolutely spectacular until you finish. And that's why they are a little bit more expensive than your they might have a premium closer to American Eagle rather than a Krugerrand. But the mass-produced coins will be a slightly, not quite as good a finish, but still a very nice finish, and people can buy them at a slightly cheaper price. So there's a nice mix there for different people depending what they want.
Nice. So here in the United States, we've seen a somewhat of a enhanced demand for physical gold with the inflation that we just went through. Nothing like, I think, what we've seen in Asia. How has the European market, and maybe even more specifically Ireland, has the inflationary pressure kind of increased that interest in gold and silver investing, or are people still kind of locked into that, as you mentioned earlier, that paradigm of, it's just a useless relic?
There's still that paradigm, unfortunately, and the media just doesn't cover gold at all in Ireland. And it's going to sound egotistical. I don't mean to sound egotistical, but I think I did a daily market update from like 2004 to 2020. For about 16 years, I did the daily market update nearly every single day, because I was so passionate about it, and I really wanted to help people understand that it would protect them from the various risks in the world, And I had to really, call up journalists, meet journalists, bring them out for coffee, bring them out for lunch, bring them out for pints of Guinness, and just really talk to them and say, listen, this is important, you cover this, because they would just almost refuse to cover it, and then they'd only cover it when they hit record highs consecutively for a period of time, then they'd cover it, Yeah, and then Financial Times and Bloomberg and CNBC would cover it, and then the Irish media would only cover it. They'd sort of follow the international media. They wouldn't. They would never take the lead and cover it. And lately, it was interesting when, as you know, gold hit consecutive record highs there in recent months over a period of weeks and months. Kept hitting new nominal record highs. It's important to realise. We have to adjust for inflation, but they were nominal record highs. But it was interesting, the CNBCs and Bloombergs and even the FT, they weren't covering it as much as you see now. When Bitcoin hits a record high, it's getting a lot more, So I've seen this for a long time. Unfortunately, a lot of demand is being siphoned into the Bitcoin and the cryptos, and we're seeing that in Ireland as well. So the bullion dealers they're struggling so much, because they're not seeing that new demand, not seeing new entrants really. You're not really seeing a big influx of, buyers, a new demographic. You would tend to see, 30-year-old, 40-year-olds coming into the marketplace, but they're not really seeing that. I think a lot of those people are being sucked into the Bitcoin, Ripple, into all these cryptocurrencies, So there's a lack of awareness. It's not being covered in the media. So yeah, and then when gold hit record highs, it's interesting. They actually saw a lot of selling of people because they're hearing gold's at record highs,
right?
And maybe some people have financial pressures. There is a cost of living crisis.
Sure.
Liquid asset that they have, so they've had to sell it. So a lot of the dealers are saying, well, they've actually seen quite a bit of selling rather than buying. So it's interesting. We're definitely not seeing any mania. So it actually does bode well. It's not great in the short term, but I think it bodes very well for the medium and long term. Providing the Bitcoin thing, I think it's very important that we as an industry have been quite poor at talking about it, and I'm actually not anti-Bitcoin per se, but I have become wary of it when I see some of the promotion of it by certain people, shall we say, and certain institutions who are using it as a speculative speculative asset, and I think it has gone from being a potential means of exchange and a potential store of value to becoming a speculative asset, which is fraught with risk. There's a lot of risk there. And I think as an industry, we really need to be talking about it and sort of pointing out, the benefits of gold and silver. Not being anti-Bitcoin per se, but just being realistic and saying pros and cons. It's not tested in any way in terms of, it doesn't have that long-term data, and the volatility is just crazy,
Crazy.
And it is, yeah. So I think that's what's happening, and that's my sense in Ireland, definitely. But even, UK, I'm not sure about Germany in recent days, but there was a lot of selling in Germany of gold in the last few months as well, and the premiums are under pressure because there is quite a lot of inventory there, So I think that will change, but we may need to. I think the 3,000 number, there could be a light bulb moment. It's hard to know. Everyone was expecting the 2,000, and we got there a few years ago, or very close to it, and everyone thought psychologically 2,000 was important. And once we get through there, that could lead to the influx of demand. But I think it looks like we might need to get to 3,000, and then silver. Yeah, I think obviously $50 is a big one for silver, But again, if the media isn't covering it, there is. I think it's more in America. It's interesting. You guys in America have more of a tradition. Obviously, there is a tradition in Germany, a hard money tradition. There is in Austria, in Switzerland to a degree. But in America, you guys have it more so. There is more of an understanding of gold and silver. Obviously, in your constitution, people who are a little bit more aware of history. In America, it is more in your DNA, shall we say. And it was interesting with Costco that they were saying demographically that they were seeing younger buyers come into the marketplace, and they're seeing women come into the marketplace as well. So I think that's likely to continue because, with the cost of living crisis, unfortunately, lots of young people, they can't afford to save. They can't afford to buy, they can't afford to save to buy a home because the price of property has become so crazy.
Yeah.
So some of them are actually saying that they're actually beginning to, and the inflation is high, so you're not getting a yield in your savings in the bank. So many of them are actually beginning to buy gold as a form of deposit to buy a family home in the coming years,
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll see a little bit of that in Ireland as well. But we'll have to, unfortunately, I think we'll have to see, the media has to cover it, because people do tend to trust the main newspapers, the main radio stations, and frequently if they don't hear it being covered, they're just not aware of it,
Yeah.
So we as an industry need to come together and just promote its benefits as a hedge and as a safe haven asset and a form of money.
Yeah, you make a really good point in terms of Bitcoin. And I just did an article this week talking about a little bit about Bitcoin and pointing out the fact that Bitcoin and gold aren't the same. And I think there's in some people's mind that they're almost as if it's a substitutable thing. You can have Bitcoin and gold and they're the same, and they actually don't correlate very well. The correlation between gold and Bitcoin is almost zero over the long term.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like you. I'm not really anti-Bitcoin. I'm more of a mentality. Why not both? And it is interesting to see that there's that interest, and maybe it's just because it's it's technology as opposed to something old. Maybe that intrigues people. And as you say,
so, yeah. Technology is. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing being that I think a lot of young people are intrigued with it because again, it's a kind of a computery thing.
No, technology is it's sexy to use that word, and we're seduced by it, and the media is pushing it, and almost promoting it, and the likes of Elon Musk, obviously, who's got a massive platform. He's promoting even this Doge coin, Now we have the Department of Government. What's it called? Department of Government.
Doge.
Is that it?
Yeah, Department of Government Efficiency, I think.
Efficiency. That's it. Yeah. So it is being promoted, and even the head of BlackRock, And BlackRock is not an institution that I would trust particularly. Larry Fink, he has been positioned as digital gold, So the narrative out there to younger people is that it's digital gold and it has all the properties of gold. It's just better than gold, and it's rare and it's finite, and but it doesn't have all the properties of gold because the thing with gold is it is a proven form of money. It's real money, and the central banks are buying gold in huge volumes, as you guys in Money Metals have been pointing out, and you're doing great research. You really are, and if people knew, if the media covered what you guys are covering, then there would be a stampede into gold. If people knew what was happening, if people knew, wow, the Chinese bought 60 tons of gold last month, like that alone would be sort of alarm bells. But that doesn't get reported in the media, So, but meanwhile, Elon Musk says something about Bitcoin, that might get reported in the media, So, and I'm getting worried because I think, the history of money is very interesting. And, there used to be a great chart, you probably remember it, Mike, I think it said, reserve currency status does not last forever. And it basically showed Portugal, roughly 100 years, Spain, roughly 100 years, Netherlands, France, Britain, and the US. And the US obviously since Bretton Woods in 1945. We're nearly heading on 80 years. So next year is the anniversary. Some people say it was 44, some people say it was 45. So depending on when you time it. So reserve currency status doesn't last, and the dollar. I'm very pro-American, but America. And corporate America and banking America, which is not real America, but Wall Street and corporate America has been living beyond its means, and the government is living beyond its means, and that can only go on for so long, as and the debt is out of control, as we know. So it's not good, and the reserve currency status was based on America being a good economy, a strong economy,
right.
not based on debt and speculation. And it was also based on the petrodollar. And now, the Saudis, the Iranians, most of the Middle East, Russia, most of the energy producing nations in the world are unfortunately, they're almost like enemies of America, and it's a very, very dangerous situation, So, and it looks to me now that the Bitcoin and the cryptos, they know the petrodollar is over, so it looks like they're trying to position a Bitcoin dollar or a crypto dollar, because Tether is at the back end. And in some ways, you need the mechanics is that you need dollars to buy Bitcoins via Coinbase. So it's it's almost propping up. The bigger the crypto universe grows in terms of overall capitalization, and the bigger the Bitcoin capitalization goes, the more demand there is for dollars and for US treasuries, And I think that's why it's been promoted by Financial Times, Economist, the big publications, the globalist publications are very much pushing it, and they're anti-gold and anti-silver, and yet they say this is digital gold. It's like, but these are the same people who are anti-gold. I've seen them be anti-gold all their lives, but they're pro-digital gold. It's like, they're not libertarian people, They don't believe gold and silver are money, and they don't want it to be money, So, I think people should be very wary of it. And I have people telling me, see, what's happening is a lot of the gold people are actually, and silver people, particularly silver people, because we used to get a good return on silver. So a lot of them are saying, well, we're going to get the return on Bitcoin and cryptos, and then we're going to put it into gold and silver. But that's a very risky strategy because, I know senior people in IT, there's backdoors into devices, the backdoors into the exchanges, the hacking. Just because you have something, your Bitcoin off in a Trezor wallet or something, to have liquidity, you still have to get it back into the system and back into the technology. So the US government has confiscated a huge amount of these assets. So there's risk in it, and there's also price risk, But I hear people all the time tell me, "Oh, you're right, gold and silver are a thing, and these are speculations. But I'm going to make money on Bitcoin and crypto, and then I'm going to put it into gold and silver."
Yeah.
And they tell me it's going to go up 10x, and then I'm going to sell it. But I'm like, what if it goes up 8x and it collapses?
Right.
Why not just to silver, because silver is probably going to go 8x or 10x. So why not just go straight to the gold and the silver, the real money, rather than speculating the other thing and potentially losing all your money and then not having the money to put into gold and silver, you know? Yeah. I'm actually quite concerned about it, because I think that's what's happening to a lot of people of the younger generation. And even my generation, men in their 50s, a lot of people are quite, you know, the financial pressures, and there is an element of this. There's a get-rich-quick thing going on, and there's also a FOMO thing, you know, and the FOMO thing is happening big time now, because they've been hearing this for years, and now they're going, oh, it's at 100,000. I should have bought 50,000.
Exactly.
And it's going to go to 200,000. So I think it's an important thing we need to discuss, because, you know, it's been very, I was actually pro it. I was one of the first people to write about it, because it did actually have a lot of the qualities of gold in terms of, you know, the being decentralized, privacy, 21 million, so rarity, you know, it did mimic some of those qualities, you know, but it's not digital gold. It's a speculative asset. And unfortunately, I think Wall Street, in the same way they've manipulated gold and silver price, I think they will, if they're not already manipulating Bitcoin, which I think they probably are. I think they will get control of it they've set up so many different products now, and even BlackRock and these guys are in buying it left, right, and center, and you've got the exchange traded funds as well, you know. So at least with China and Russia and the central banks around the world are buying gold, so that's going to create, you know, a true free market price for gold will be seen at some stage in coming months and years. And same with silver, because of the industrial demand. So the manipulation we've seen for many years will end in gold and silver. I believe it's ending right now. I do genuinely believe that, you know, and I think we'll see that in the coming months. But I think the opposite might be the case with Bitcoin, you know, and it may be pumped higher, but it can be dumped as quickly, you know. So I just think people need to be wary, and I do think we all need to be talking about it, because it's a risk. It's a risk to everybody, because, you know, we saw what happened in recent years, the push for digital IDs, and I think that push is going to come again, you know. And with digital currency comes digital ID. So if you're a true libertarian, you need to be sticking with gold and silver, you know. Let's practice what we preach, you know.
Yeah, you can hold it in your hands. Well,
I'll say also a combination thereof. Yeah, if you feel very secure in your own home, you know, some people don't. If it gives you sleepless nights, don't.
Right.
But most people are fairly comfortable with it, but it depends where you live and all the rest of it. Yeah. So, but it's interesting. That repatriation thing is very interesting, and I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah. And
I think, because we're the benefit of that in Goldco. We had a lot of American clients who are storing via us in Switzerland, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Mm-hmm. But now I think it's closer, given we've never seen such high geopolitical risk in the world. So, you know, and there's a lot of fear mongering now about nuclear war. I think we'll pull back from the brink, but it's highly irresponsible what's happening. And we need to, as Churchill once said, we need to jaw, not war, you know. So, but everybody, I think, should repatriate their gold as much as possible. I think you should have it closer to home. So if you're an American citizen, have it in vaults, you know, in Idaho. It's a great location. Mm-hmm. Or if you live near Miami, have it near Miami. If you live, or, you know, safety deposit box in your nearest city. You know, and Ireland, I'm encouraging people for many years to store some in Dublin as well, because, you know, Switzerland is very close, and it's a good jurisdiction as well. It's very, very liquid. So, but it's all about eggs in different baskets, you know, but having some close at home is very, very important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, where can folks find your work and find out more about Terra? Can give us your locations in the internet world there.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. So it's TerraCoins.com. We've been very much focused on sort of wholesale and selling to partners like Money Metals, who are now a very strong partner of ours. But we've actually just launched, so on that website, you can see the list of the distributors, both in the US, in the UK, in Ireland, and we've distributors in many, many countries around the world. So you can buy directly from those distributors. We're beginning to do some retail with companies and with certain size orders over a certain limit. So all that information is on TerraCoins.com. And then if you're buying for gifts, we have a new website gone live called Gold and Silver Trees of Life.ie. IE is the Irish domain, search domain. So it's gold. It's a bit of a mouthful. Gold and Silver Trees of Life.ie, and people can buy it. With that one, you're actually buying it as a gift. Mm-hmm. So you'll get these beautiful walnut presentation boxes, and you get the certificate of authenticity.
Nice.
Yeah, no, they are beautiful, and so they come in the capsule in the box with the certificate of authenticity, and so again, they're great gifts for people for anniversaries, for birthdays. We've had people buying them for their children's graduations just to celebrate and to reward their children for the hard slog in university. So they're great ways to just mark events in people's lives,
Yeah.
And then for bullion, yeah, you can, as I said, you can buy via distributors, or for certain size, you can buy directly from us, whether it be the BU, Brilliant Uncirculated bullion rounds, and then with Money Metals, we also have the bullion rounds that we minted with Regency Mint. So they can be bought at the lower cost rounds, and they can be bought with Money Metals and delivered around the world, and also stored with Money Metals, So yeah, and we're on the usual. So we've been taking off some of the channels. We're no longer on LinkedIn, but we're on Twitter. We're still on Twitter, and but the primary thing is taracoins.com, and you can sign up for the market updates and that there.
Well, outstanding. I know it's getting late where you are, so I'm gonna let you go. But I really appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to chat. Very enjoyable, very insightful, and I really do encourage people to check out these coins. They are gorgeous, and Christmas is right around the corner. So if you're looking for that gift, that's a great option. And
absolutely, yeah.
So people,
it really is. And Thanksgiving might be a bit too late for Thanksgiving. So, but definitely people should make it for Christmas, and they're beautiful, beautiful gifts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for saying that, Mike. Really appreciate it, and thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you.
Another fascinating interview there by Mike Maharrey. Marco Byrne is a knowledgeable, creative, and passionate player in our global precious metals industry, and he's created something really special with these quintessentially Irish Tree of Life coins. If you're interested in holding some of these beautiful and, frankly, deeply symbolic gold and silver pieces in your hands, you can get them for yourself by going to moneymetals.com and searching Tree of Life. You won't be disappointed, I assure you. Well, that will do it for this week. Be sure to check back next week for our weekly Market Wrap podcast. And don't miss our second weekly podcast, the Money Metals Midweek Memo, hosted by Mike Maharrey and available each Wednesday. To check out any of our audio programs, just visit moneymetals.com/podcasts or find them on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, this has been Stefan Gleason with Money Metals. Thanks for listening. Thanks also for allowing us to serve you, and I hope especially you have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Money Metals podcast. Be sure to come back next week. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast through iTunes. For answers to all of your questions, or to discreetly and securely buy or sell gold or silver coins, bars, and rounds, call 1-800-800-1865 or visit www.moneymetals.com. Our knowledgeable and no-pressure specialists are standing by to answer your call during business hours, Monday through Saturday. Or you can lock in your order online, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, visit us at www.moneymetals.com or call 1-800-800-1865.